Well, more now on our top story, the execution in Jordan following the murder of one of its pilots by Islamic State militants. Well, National Security Analyst Arash Aramesh joins me now live from San Francisco via Skype. And Arash, a swift response seemingly now from Jordan. Do you think this is just playing into the hands of Islamic State or a necessary punishment?
The Islamic State is unlike many other terrorist organizations. If you remember back in the 80s or even the 90s, Hezbollah would come and negotiate. They would release hostages for their own prisoners. Even at the peak of Hezbollah activity against U.S. Forces in Lebanon, when they blew up the U.S. embassy, when they went after the U.S. Marines, the Marines barracks, they still, through their proxies or through their patrons, negotiated. ISIS is unlike them. It's unlike the Taliban that just released Sergeant Bergdahl and got 5 of its leaders back. ISIS seems to be hell-bent on death and destruction. So it is unclear exactly to what extent they pursue power for, if they just want power for the sake of death and destruction. So the response of the Jordanian government was as most people expected. Jordan, for days now, we were expecting to see a prisoner swap, to see Genji Goto, the Japanese journalist, and the Jordanian F-16 pilot to be released for this female prisoner that was trying to blow herself up in 2005, 2006 on an Al-Qaeda plot. But having said that, we found out today that apparently the Jordanian pilot was already dead. They had already killed him on January 3rd. So even the perception of going through with this sort of a swap was a complete deceitful act. So it does put us in a tough position. This is not an organization you can negotiate with. This is not an organization that you can count on as a rational actor. And it makes dealing with them much harder, which brings us back to my first point. We require to use a lot of force in the near future to first do away with this organization, dismantle its leadership, dismantle its military capability, as we have done so far, push them to act push them into isolation, and then create a situation on the ground where organizations such as ISIS or such as Al-Qaeda or such as Boko Haram will not be able to grow and breathe. But that takes a lot more than just US and the European Union.
Arash, what do you see happening now? Do you see Sunni groups in the region joining the fight then against Islamic State in response to this horrific murder?
Well, a lot of Sunni groups in the region view fighting against the Islamic State as fighting for their enemies. So if you are fighting the Islamic State in Syria, and in effect you are strengthening the government of President Bashar al-Assad, a lot of Sunnis aren't just going to do that. A lot of Sunni organizations, a lot of other jihadi groups, a lot of non-Sunni, non-Islamist groups are just not going to do that. They see on the one hand a coalition built by Iran. At the forefront of it, you see the Iraqi government, you see Iraqi Shiites, you see the Assad government in Syria, you see Hezbollah in Lebanon, and then on the other side, you see the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. You also see Jabhat al-Nusra and Al-Qaeda, and then you also see Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Turkey, that at some point, countries like Qatar or Turkey supported ISIS in its very original sort of early days of formation. But again, there is some sort of shady dealings going on. My point is, just by fighting ISIS, a lot of these organizations feel as if they're helping the enemy, and the enemy is Shiite Iran and other Shiite coalitions. On the other hand, the threat of ISIS itself has become so threatening that it is now threatening many important Sunni states, such as Jordan, such as Saudi Arabia. If you listen to the father of this the deceased pilot, he requested the ISIS captors to treat his son like a guest. He wasn't trying to be nice. He was actually speaking in code. This is a very tribal part of the Middle East we're talking about, the Jordanian-Iraqi border. He was saying, listen, if you kill one of ours, we're not going to forget that. And the men of my tribe, which is the most important in Jordan, are going to come after you. ISIS is doing itself a huge disfavor by doing this. But whether it's out of frustration or whether this is just their hell-bent ideology of death and destruction, they're going to continue doing this unless we stop them.
Arash Aramesh, many thanks.